Alright, just a quick teaser. Have you ever wanted to be able to shoot out orbs of lightning like this without having to cast them so that you could just teleport to them and set down shocking ground? Because I'm going to show you guys how to do that. Hello, fellow exile. I got a build that does a lot of damage for very little investment. It's also got quite a few mechanics that I don't really see people using much, so let's get into that. What I like about this build when you have zero budget is that it can go in so many different ways. It's fun to play, so you can kind of make it your own after doing the bare minimum, which would be just being able to cast Lightning Warp, Orb of Lightnings, Shockburst rounds, and Herald of Thunder. So the core part of the gameplay is actually going to come from Lightning Warp because it's going to leave shocking ground. It's going to allow your main attack, Shockburst rounds, to do exponentially more damage. So let's quickly go over the skills that we're going to start off using. Lightning Warp needs to be in there. The skills that I have in here are going to be Overcharge for more magnitude. You also want to lay down Lightning Exposure, so that whole big AoE that happens is actually, it's not just 8 seconds, it's going to be how long Lightning Warp is going to last, which is 10 seconds. And then you're going to have more area of effect and more increased exposure. That Lightning Warp is going to be that big, which is way more bigger than just a regular exposure skill. And you're gonna also see how much mana it takes is very little. You're also gonna want Ball of Lightning. I've been saying Orb of Lightning this whole time. Ball Lightning, so that you could have something to teleport in need. Say you don't have any target, you don't have a Ball of Lightning that's auto-casted, which we're gonna use with cast on Minion death. So this is just to guarantee you're going to be able to shock ground whenever you want. And I built this so that there's acceleration in there. You could use it to teleport instead of blink, but you could also have blink, which is cool. We're going to go into the sockets for that one. So I had put acceleration so you can get to places much faster. Wild Shards is amazing whenever it procs because it's going to let you shock so much ground, so many places, and you could warp or blink yourself back to a safe place. Arcane Tempo, faster cast speed. You want to be able to cast this as fast as possible. We're going to be talking about weapon swaps to do even faster cast speed. And Unleash, because if you do use it, if you do use it, you could warp, shoot, and then you could warp again. But for some reason, crossbow shoot doesn't allow you to shoot the crossbow immediately without rolling. That's a little bug, so just to let you know, if you're testing out this build in the hideout, it's not going to let you warp and then shoot. It's going to be bugged out, the hideout sometimes. You'd have to roll to remove that effect and shoot again. So I can't show you properly in the hideout, so we're going to go into the attacking skills. The main one, load Shockburst rounds, is going to be huge. You could kind of see that the attack speed is going to be 450 of the base, and the attack damage is fairly low. Normally, if you're not attacking something shocked, it's going to do this much damage, but when you look into the pulse part of it, it's going to convert 100% of physical damage to lightning damage. That pulse is also AoE, and it does 153 damage. So if you could imagine hitting 153 times the attack of your attack speed of 450, and it does AoE, so if you happen to hit multiple enemies, it's gonna do a lot of damage. That's where I get most of my DPS from, and that's how it melts enemies. I don't even need to shoot this fast. I can just tap my button. You could hold down the button to rapid fire, but I like tapping the button because that increases my survivability at least double or triple fold, which I'll get into later. All right, let's talk about the support gems for Shockburst rounds. So, I totally unequipped it. So anyways, all right, for the support gems, lightning penetration, that's gonna be 30% lightning resistance penetration. Next, we're gonna have Elemental Focus. That's gonna help deal 25% more elemental damage. That more is multiplicative. Anytime you see more, that's something that I would like to stack on. So that one's a big one for me. Elemental damage on top of your lightning damage is gonna be nice. We're gonna go with Martial Tempo as well. Martial Tempo, you can't go wrong with more attack speed. 25% more is a big jump. That's a lot more than a lot of the nodes will give you. So even if you have very little nodes, that 25% is a huge jump. And from there, we're gonna go with Mobility. Mobility is gonna grant you 30% less move speed penalty while using the support skills, because as you all know, if you use the crossbow and you shoot, you're gonna be at a walking speed. We wanna be able to move quickly while shooting, or move quicker while shooting, so we don't get hit by a big AoE, get hit by projectiles, or even hit by a melee attack. And I do have a tip that I will show you soon. But before then, we're gonna have some notable mentions, especially if you have extra slots. I only have 4. I will mention Nimble Reload. It helps to have a lot less time where you're not shooting. So 60% increased crossbow reload speed is really nice. Then we're gonna also go with Fresh Clip, which will increase damage by 1% more for each bolt reloaded in that same skill for the past 6 seconds, which is pretty big if you shoot fast. I have a different mechanic that I use, so I don't really use Fresh Clip as much, and that's why I went for Elemental Focus. If you're gonna just lay on the fire, I'm gonna recommend putting in Fresh Clip. It doesn't hurt to have Herald of Thunder, because you're gonna be killing shocked enemies anyway. That's a guarantee, because anyone inside Lightning Warp is gonna be shocked. So we're gonna gain 100% of physical bolt damage into lightning damage, and it gives you a buff. I have quality plus 12, plus I added another quality. So normally it would be next 3 hits on your attacks will be the shocking damage, but I included extra quality, so I got 6. I only did that just last night, so literally all the other footage is going to be 3 attack hits. I just finished my 4th ascendancy. Skills for Herald of Thunder, I put in Lightning Mastery. That's going to help me increase the attack damage on here. And then I went with 100% more shock. I could probably do something better. I get a lot more shock when I do my Lightning Warp. I went with Lightning Infusion. The support attacks gain 25% of damage as extra lightning. It's not as good as the more that we have up here, and we're not going to be hitting Herald of Thunder as much. Most of the harder enemies are going to be able to tank a few Herald of Thunders, and then if I could only hit 6 times or 3 times with Herald of Thunder, I'd rather put most of my DPS on to load Shockburst rounds. So that's the bare minimum. If you don't really need Cast on Minion Death to be able to do this, but Cast on Minion Death is there if you want to go very extra and then do extra cast. It's gonna shoot out your butt. It's kind of weird, but whenever there's a target around, it is gonna shoot towards the enemies, which is fairly nice. All right, so let's start with some mechanics. Normally, when you fire, your character is gonna be about this fast, even with 30% faster move speed support gem. If I wanted to survive a lot better, I actually had a video, the link is below, where I do this tap shoot mechanic, and then you're gonna see the difference of speed between just moving and firing like this or tap firing like this. You could see there's a big difference, and when you're doing so much DPS in a crowd, especially when there's no bosses, all you really need to is just fire 1, 2, 3, 4 instead of killing it. You can kill enemies about this fast, or you can kill enemies the same speed just like this, just hitting target to target. So the nicest part about this, it doesn't require anything to use. All it requires is just for you to tap the attack button, and then you'll be moving around at a quicker speed. You don't have to do this all the time. I do this whenever I feel like attacks coming that I just want to sidestep out of the way. It's a safe mechanic while you still lay on some damage. Very helpful when you're surrounded and you want to clear the pack. Alright, so this next mechanic I'm going to show is how to use your blink more properly while using Lightning Warp. So you Lightning Warp, you could also blink back right away. I like to set the Lightning Warp, Shocking Ground, and then actually blink backwards. And I feel like that's one of the ways to remove one of Lightning Warp's weaknesses. Another good reason to use blink right after you Lightning Warp and then you come back out is sometimes there's enemies that do pools of damage DPS, whether it be blood, poison, or that little pus explosion. I like to just be able to barely touch where they exploded, but at the same time see, you can kind of see forward and then see a whole screen away. You're actually able to hit off screen a decent amount. I play with some of my friends and I could see how far I could shoot. So now we're going to be talking about another mechanic that I'm using on Minion Death. I found this to be pretty nice. I don't have any shocking ground around, just quickly tap Lightning Warp, and then since Lightning Warp is on my second slot, I'll be able to do some ball lightning. Lets me instant warp, which is way faster than casting than warping. See the difference, cast and warp. So I want to instant cast on these guys. There you go, instant cast. And it's that easy. Alright, now we finally get to talk about how to use cast on Minion Death in this build. And came up to me on accident. I suddenly dropped a Corpse Weight boot on the floor, and I had no other boots, so I decided to use this one. And I found out that it really complemented the playstyle for Lightning Warp, because Lightning Warp culls enemies at 25%, depends on what their rarity is. But the fact that Corpse Weight boots decomposed and created poisonous gas on the ground, it brought enemies' health down gradually enough that I could time my Lightning Warp to their HP reaching their certain threshold. Now I wanted to do a lot more, and I did find so many different other cool skills that complement Decompose, but the most interesting one is cast on Minion Death. I've always been a Minions player. I thought that was really interesting. I started with Witch, but then I went to this class because I feel like it's better for theory crafting. You can do a lot more with Gemling Engineer. So I wanted to find out how I can easily cast Orb of Lightning. Sorry, Ball Lightning. Let me correct myself that time. Because casting and then teleporting, there's an obvious delay in between just being able to shoot, cast, and then teleport, and then shoot again. What I wanted to do was be able to do pretty much this. I would shoot, and then I could just teleport to my ball lightnings wherever it is. And the bonus is, look at all that shock ground. That makes me able to shoot my weapon and hit the Shockburst rounds pulses from that whole big distance. In order to do that, there's a couple things that you need. Corpse Weight boots, number one. It normally targets corpses, but if you get this Sacrifice Spirit Gem, it's gonna allow your minions to become corpses for your skills. It revives 31% more slowly, but you don't have to worry about that one because of the weapon swap mechanic. Cast on Minion Death, for me, I don't really need much. I do a lot more damage with my lightning than with comets flying down, and it's a whole nother thing trying to aim the comets on enemies since I'm more of a range attacker. So I really wanted to use ball lightning most of all, and the skills I put inside were energy retention, impetus, and scatter shot. I used to have deceleration just so I could have a lot more time to think and see if I wanted to teleport to this area or that area. But I feel like I'm getting faster at reacting to all the ball lightnings around that I could just go with scatter shot. So speaking of the timing, normally you see that we have a little timer for our minions, and then it keeps on going back to 11 seconds every time one of your minions die. But there's a little internal timer that we don't quite get to see when you weapon swap. It's not exactly as fast as you see here in the hideout. As you could tell, some mechanics in the hideout don't exactly work the same way as in combat. As far as I've seen, it takes about 5 to 4 seconds between weapon swaps that you're able to swap your weapon back and then have your minions spawn again. Sometimes I would swap my weapon back a little bit too early, and then my minions would not die. In order to fix that, you could just swap twice again. Because of that, Sometimes I could just auto cast ball lightning, which is really nice. The more minions you have, the more balls you're gonna take. So weapon set 1, I had my crossbow. Mainly that's going to be where you're going to be focusing on your DPS, and weapon set 2 is going to be a lot of your spells are going to be casted on weapon set 2. It's not really damage, but it is going to complement your damage a lot. To make it easier to see, we're going to just move into the passives area. I started as a mercenary, and I assume you could do what I'm doing with any class. It just helps me to be mercenary because I like to theory craft and then change things up a lot, and I could just kind of go off with lots of attributes. So I went straight down. I know I'm going to be using a crossbow, so I went straight projectile damage. That really helps out a lot. There's some optional stuff that I did like. Area of effect I usually do like, but you could go whatever you want. I'm going to send you to the most important parts for this build. So if you're using Shockburst rounds, it's imperative that you're going to want Lightning Rod. Lightning Rod does lightning damage. The non-critical hits become lucky. That means it's going to roll your damage 2 times, and then the better result is used. If you're going to notice, I put a red line. That's going to be where my weapon set 1 skill points are going to be. And being able to divide up your weapon set skills makes 1 skill point essentially into 2 skill points, because you could divide 1, put it in here, and then the other half of that skill went into here. These ones are very useful for just being able to cast out your ball lightning and then lightning warp instantly. I just realized I had a jewel socket that I could have used this whole time. Down here we have skill speed. Doesn't hurt to have skill speed because that affects both attack and magic spells. Get some extra magnitude through this line. The green line is going to be my second weapon slot, and I went further up over here, more attack speed, because for me I have a lot of dexterity. 1% increased attack speed for dexterity is pretty nice. If you're going for evasion is pretty nice over here. You're going to get more dexterity. It's going to build on each other. This is where it kind of forks off. I went as my priority to go up here because you get increased attack and cast speed with lightning skills, and you're going to be using lightning skills the whole day. And then from here it goes into more magnitude. I only needed that on my second weapon slot. It goes all the way up to 40% increased magnitude of shock, and that's pretty huge. I think I get 70% magnitude of shock with all of these together. So I just thought of an idea. It's gonna be super spirit intensive. I wish we could have so much more spirit, but if I removed all my spirit from my second slot, this is probably so unoptimal, and then I just use it with my first slot, I think it's gonna have some really cool effects. So I would just be normal casting my ball orb, my ball lightning, and then teleporting, and then from there I would be shooting my crossbow, and then when I shoot my crossbow, those come out. So what I really wanted was to be able to shoot my crossbow, teleport, shoot my crossbow, teleport, shoot my crossbow, teleport, and it seems like I could do that. But I'm gonna have to test that, and I might get back to you guys with another video. That's pretty much all I should show at the moment. I didn't want this to last this long, but I'm pretty passionate about this game, and I'd love to teach and I love to share different mechanics that I feel like go unnoticed. I know this cast on Minion mechanic was fairly new, but I really wanted to show more about the lightning warp, the shocking ground paired with the Shockburst rounds. I felt like that was a really good contender for DPS, and it would be a really good build to build something around it. That, and then I also wanted to just showcase my tap mobility mechanic one more time, because at first when I discovered it, it was just a beginner's thing with rapid shot, and I just wanted to be able to keep my heat up. But when you're doing so much damage with the shocking ground and then shockburst rounds, this is all you need. It feels humbling that I could go back to the roots of what interested me about this build, about this class. Well, you guys, thank you very much for sticking around this long. If you have, I know I could ramble on, I can keep going. I did my best to try and cut out anything that was just a little bit too much, a little too complicated, and simplified it down. I hope you guys are having a lot of fun playing Path of Exile 2. There's so much to do before I keep going again. You guys have a wonderful day.